Hello guys, and welcome back to another video of Python's intermediate series. In this video, I'm going to be talking about something called an optional parameter. So here, as a starter, I've wrote a simple program that includes a function. By the way, if you haven't checked out my previous video about functions, be sure to check that out. And yeah, so here I've wrote the previous example of the function right, and I've included the parameter of content, and here's the classic hello world. So if I run the program right now, you see it prints out hello world. Now, what if, for example, I don't want to include a parameter, but I also want to kind of, in some cases, include parameters. So for example, if you want to write something, like as a default, and then you want to write something else. So for example, you just keep on writing hi, you have to without typing the parameter, you want to type hi because it's the most often thing you use, right? So what you do in this case is that you use something called an optional parameter, and let me just type it over here. So optional parameter. I think it's not that right. Okay, so an optional parameter is basically like a parameter, but it is given a certain value. So think of it like a variable that stores a certain value, and then if you type in the parameter, it changes. So let's have an example over here. So first you want to define content as the basic or the kind of beginning or default value. So in our case, maybe you want to type hello or hi multiple times. So I'm going to just say hi. And now if I delete that and I do not include a parameter, you see if I run the program, it prints hi. And let me remove that, just demonstration. And as you can see, it prints out hi. Now I change that to hello, it prints out hello. That's because you've told the interpreter, okay, so I'm gonna take the variable, parameter content. If it is written, if it's not written, or if we don't include the parameter in here, then we're gonna set it equal to something, which in our case we set it equal to hello. And then we print out the content. So the interpreter realizes that, okay, we have no input for the parameter over here. So what it does is that it moves up here to function. It sees the content parameter, and then it sees that it's equal to hello. So it just types hello. Now say I put in an input like hi, it will type the input that we put because it checks there's an input. Yes, there is. So we're gonna write this input over here, and that's not only for kind of print functions. So you can also do the previous example of the type of something. So for example, over here, we're gonna define data. Variable name. Okay, and then data. Okay, so say you want to find the kind of data or data type of. Actually, let's change that variable name. Sorry, function name to data type. I'm confused. Okay, so now we're gonna check the data type of hi. And let's just exclude this parameter right now. If you run it, you see it's a string. Now say I set it equal to another kind of data type. So for example, 2, that's an integer, right? So guess what will happen? It will still, and let me run it again, it will still type as a string because we have inputted a parameter over here. Now if I delete the parameter and then I run it, it still takes the first parameter, or what content is defined by from the beginning, or or you can think of it as a default value for this parameter, which we set as 2. If we set as 3, well, it is still an integer because it's 3. And yeah, so this is how it works. Same here as list. So if I say maybe list of, okay, let's say just 1 and then 2, and then you see that it's a class of list, or sorry, the data type of a list. Now you can also include that here, and if you also try out tuples, so let me just show you. See, it says class tuple or tuple. Until you type a parameter in here that specifies exactly maybe what you want. So just type anything random, and you see that it's a list because you actually inputted a parameter. Now this could be useful when making examples of a mathematical equation or something. You want maybe something to be a default number unless you change it. Until you want to say, let me just give you an example. So define sum, and then you want to have num1 and num2. So first number and second number. And then I'm going to print num1 plus num2. Just like that. And then we're going to write sum. Here's the beginning. It will give you an error, of course, because we have two parameters that we didn't type. And now say you have, maybe you wanna set number1 equal to a default value, so set it equal to maybe 3, just random number. If you run it, well, guess what? It will still give you an error because we have still one more kind of input or parameter that we need to input, which is number2, of course. Now let me point out something. So if I type 2 right now and then I run it, they're over here. Yep. So you see you get an error because it actually takes for number1 as the first one. So yeah, this is something to keep in mind. And then if you input it this way, let me see something. Okay, so right now I just realized that you actually cannot type a default argument or default parameter before the non-default parameter. So if I do that, even if I input two parameters, it will still give me an error because you can't do that. So if you want to do that, in this case, you can revert to the two numbers. So say that this is number 2 and the other is number 1, or you can set both of them into a default numbers, for example 2 and 2, and then not input anything in here. This will still work for. And then say you input a parameter, so 2 and 9, it'll also take it in. Now say you just want to input one parameter from all of these. Now if I do this, nope, it's not gonna work, or let's just change it to that. So you see it actually works because these two are the same currently. But if I change maybe number 2 into 3, so for example, let's change it to 5. So you're taking 3 to be for number 2. Well, guess what? It will not work because this will take it as if it's the first number, so it's 3 plus 5 in this case. Now you can do you can then, if you want that, you can type the default number over here, and then it will work. So and 3 plus 5. And yeah, so this is how it works basically. You can also use this to kind of find the type of something. You can use it for multiplication. You can even use it for division. And yeah. So this is how it basically works. Functions and optional parameters are kind of going together. And yeah. So I hope you have learned about optional parameters, and I'll see you guys in the next video.